the sports betting network.
This is the VSiN Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Good morning and welcome into the VSiN Morning Line. Thank you for getting your day started with us. There is a new favorite in the NFL MVP race. A franchise quarterback is born and two teams falling to 0-3. We are recapping all the Monday Night Football action for you here on the VSiN Morning Line. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. Guys, let's start with the Commanders and Bengals, where defense was optional. If you like the college game, welcome. But guys, Jayden Daniels, welcome to the NFL. 21 of 23 passes for a 91% completion rate, the best in a single game by an NFL rookie. His first career passing score was a thick 6. I mean, fireworks galore in this game. Michael, what were your takeaways?
Well, I think, to me, Jayden Daniels was absolutely outstanding with only 2 incompletions. They only forced 9 third downs in the game. And what was fascinating was until the big play to McLaurin at the end, I mean, they were going down the field. They only averaged 6.2 yards per play, which is outstanding. But to me, they controlled the football 33 minutes. Their defense, which we know is a liability, stayed off the field, and they cashed in the red zone, and they were able to convert those fourth downs when they could keep drives alive. So, I mean, I thought he played flawless. I thought Cliff Kingsbury did a wonderful job of calling the game. I think this Bengal defense, we have said all summer, all year, it's been suspect, thought it would get better. Looked a little better against Kansas City, but last night it was really atrocious, and I think it's a huge problem for their team. There's no physicality. They couldn't create a negative play, and they couldn't keep him in the pocket. I mean, the thing that makes him so difficult is his ability to escape from the pocket, keep his eyes down the field, and then his ability to throw the ball on the third level. I mean, when you can get big plays down the field and create movement with your feet, it's tough for the defense, and Cincinnati's pass rush didn't do a good enough job. This game was about Washington being more physical than Cincinnati, Harrison.
Yeah, and as somebody who picked the Cincinnati Bengals to win in my Survivor League using my mulligan, Jayden Daniels did me dirty last night. He was spectacular in every way, shape, and form. I mean, I'm watching this guy at some point, I'm thinking, he's like a mix of Lamar Jackson, the way he's avoiding pressure, the way he's creating first downs with his legs, the way he's extending plays with his legs. And then he's like Tom Brady here in the fourth quarter, super accurate, making play after play with his arm, finding open receiver after open receiver. It was truly impressive what Jayden Daniels put out there last night. And as a Giants fan, I saw him in week 2, and I was really, impressed by what he did with his feet and extended plays. And then now seeing it again, this time with more passing volumes, only 2 incompletions, and then the guts and the talent to throw that touchdown to Terry McLaurin. My goodness, he was spectacular, and I understand now, Grace, why he's favored to win Rookie of the Year. The way this offense can sustain drives, I don't care if Cam Taylor-Britt thinks it's a college offense. They've been pretty impressive so far through 3 weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a college offense if it works. Jayden Daniels, as you mentioned, only 2 incompletions, 254 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. He can beat you through the air or on the ground at this point. He had that early miss to Terry McLaurin, looked like kind of a miscommunication thing, but later made amends for it, completing the deep ball. The 55-yard pass was the longest air yard pass in his entire career, pro or college. And he played 5 years in college, by the way. But being a Heisman winner at LSU, he was ready for this moment. Someone asked him after the game, "Are you surprised about the result?" Here's what he had to say.
Third game in the NFL, that level of success, does any of this surprise you?
I mean, yes and no. Yes, because obviously it's something new to me as I continue to journey in my rookie year. But also just knowing the aspect, I put in the work. And what's done in the dark will always come to the light. So I just know that I'm prepared for these moments week in and week out. I'm just got to go out there and play football and execute.
Yeah, I think this young man really understands how to play the game. Obviously, Grace, as you mentioned, 5 years in college football really served him well at Arizona State and then at LSU. But more than anything, I think Cliff Kingsbury has figured out what he's really good at doing and utilizing his skill set within it. You can call it a college offense, which it really is, but it's effective. And I think they've neutralized their inability to protect. They don't get behind in the game. You could just see the sense of urgency when they got behind 7-0. They knew they came right back out and they tied that game. They don't want this offensive line to be in a drop back pass game because that is their deficiency in terms. And so Daniels has been able to do a wonderful job at handling that. And some of these throws he's made are just really good. They had him backed up on a 2nd and 16. He hit Zerts over the middle. I mean, he's made very good, accurate throws. And I think he's going to continue to do that. He's just growing into this role, and they're going to grow this offense around him, Harrison.
Yeah, I'm watching them last night, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, he doesn't seem fazed by anything so far. I mean, I watched Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams looks like a deer in the headlights at times. Bo Nix looks like a deer in the headlights sometimes, and those are other rookie-year quarterbacks. But I can look at some second-year quarterbacks, i.e. Will Levis, and still think to myself, man, these guys feel under pressure. There was a certain sense of calm when Jayden Daniels was operating out there last night. And there was also a certain sense of calm grace, too, when he was successful, when he scored touchdowns. There was still a aura to him, a confidence to him that I think we haven't necessarily seen from these younger quarterbacks so far. And I don't know if that's what Cliff Kingsbury's instilled in him, or if it's just his natural confidence, or if it's the offensive line in the mix with just what the offense is doing. But the success so far, you can see it kind of reverberating off of him. And it's definitely, there's a drastic difference from even the body language in Jayden Daniels through his first 3 games, when you compare him to these other rookie quarterbacks out there.
Yeah, I think especially on that last scoring drive of the game when he was able to keep his composure and convert that 4th and 4 to Zach Ertz and then score a touchdown there to clinch the game. Really impressive stuff from a rookie, and really exciting times in DC because Lord knows they've been searching for a quarterback for decades. So congrats to all my East Coast folks waking up. We're feeling some hope, feeling some promise today. Good times in the nation's capital. Let's get to the other game, though. This one was quite more decisive early on in the game. Bills roll the Jaguars 47-10, thanks to an MVP performance from Josh Allen. And Harrison, I'll go to you first because you had the longer shot odds for this Josh Allen MVP ticket. He's now the favorite at 2-1. What'd you see out of him last night?
Yeah, when I went into the season, I was worried about Josh Allen in terms of where he's going to be able to get his targets. No more Stephon Diggs, no more Gabe Davis. What is he going to do? And what him and Joe Brady have really constructed with this offense has been impressive so far through 3 weeks. Last night, he completed passes to 10 different receivers. They have this offensive philosophy now. It's just the ball gets to the open man. You don't have to lock anybody in. And I think that's really showing Josh Allen's talent in that realm. And then obviously, too, that man could run the ball. He was still running for first downs. And so now you look at him, he's the favorite on the MVP marks, Michael, because it looks like he's pretty much doing everything. And this type of system really shows just how good he is. And when it comes to the MVP award, we know it's also a narrative around it. And with him losing a number 1 wide receiver, it really is going to help his case and overall the Bills' case in general.
Well, I mean, I think Shakir's really played well for him, and he has great confidence in him, and he's done a great job of finding the receivers and letting the offense dictate it. I think this is a change that Buffalo had to make, actually. Buffalo was in that 11 personnel. They play in Buffalo, New York. I just kind of want to remind people it snows in Buffalo. It gets windy and cold in Buffalo. It's hard to have an offense that's predicated on trying to spread everybody out and not having any physicality. And I think after losing at home to the Cincinnati Bengals, I think Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane kind of reevaluated. And I think you could see this shift in terms of we're getting away from 11. We're going to be more physical. James Cook's been a very good runner. They have Dalton Kincaid, who does a really good job in the slot. So I think, to me, this has been partly as Josh Allen has grown and to understand how you have to win in December and January. This offense is conducive for it, and they've got enough skill players around it. Look, the one thing about the quarterback, he's a point guard. He makes everybody else better, right? I think he makes Brady, for all the talk that Brady's had in his career, I mean, other than Randy Moss, tell me what number 1 receiver he had. Deion Branch, he was a good player. There are a lot of good players, but to me, the point guard makes everything better. And I think with Cook's running and Allen's ability to run as well, that 6-back offense that he does, like he ran that quarterback draw yesterday, on 3rd down and just took off. He limits your coverages. So it's really good. Go ahead, Harrison.
Yeah, no, and I'm watching this team, Michael, and I'm wondering to myself, and I see similarities to that same Kansas City Chiefs team that lost Tyreek Hill, and everybody thought, oh, this Kansas City Chiefs team can't be any good, and they win the Super Bowl that year. It almost feels like the same formula. You got a very good tight end in Dalton Kincaid. You got a running game in James Cook, just like they did with Isaiah Pacheco and Travis Kelce. The similarities are there, and then on the defensive side of the ball, Sean McDermott is cooking up, just like Steve Spagnuolo does for the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like these are almost like identical squads if you really look at them side to side.
Yeah. I think that's the question mark there. Is Buffalo going to be good enough defensively? You know, Jacksonville was poorly prepared. You know, you could just see Sean McDermott had read Doug Peterson's mail before it ever got delivered. And that game was over so quickly. And Lawrence, I mean, that's a whole other story we're going to have to get into because they just rewarded this guy with a $53 million contract. They can't be happy. And remember, Shah Khan, their owner, came out this summer and was very clear at saying this is the most talented team in Jacksonville Jaguar history. Not that I agreed with him, but that's what he was saying. And now they're 0-3, and you know and they have to go to Houston. I mean, Grace, Trevor Lawrence is 1-8 in his last 9 starts. Last time he won was against Houston back in November of last year. So a long time for wins for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Shad Khan definitely sending a message to his team over the summer. But last night, Josh Allen's message came a little bit louder and clearer. Okay, coming up in this show, we got 3 guests joining us later on in this hour. It'll be Matt Youmans with his best bets for the week. Then at 8:30 Eastern, we have Ian Hartitz with Fantasy Outlook. And at 9:30 Eastern, Jonathan Von Hobel coming up in this hour. We're taking a look at the fantasy studs and duds from the weekend and a look ahead to some of these Week 4 games. You're listening to the VSiN Morning Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Tuesday on Follow the Money, we'll recap a Monday Night Football doubleheader. Also look ahead to Week 5 in college with Paul Stone with picks and Derek Stevens. Not many left in Survivor. Follow the Money weekdays 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Fills in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's Late Night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line, where we are recapping Monday Night Football action with you. It's kind of the start of a stretch here, guys, where we have these Monday night double headers. And last night, Harrison, I was thinking back to my beat reporting days. It was nice for the Bills. Well, I guess both sides. Those beat reporters in the Jags-Bills games could just pack it up at halftime, turn in their paper and go home, kick their feet up in the press box. Commanders-Bengals, a bit more exciting. But, these double header guys, what do we think about it on a Monday night, Harrison?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I think the NFL got away lucky last night because that Bills-Jaguars game wasn't a game pretty much halfway through the first half. But for the most part, I would like to actually sit back and watch the game. On Sundays, that 1 p.m. slate, that 4 p.m. window, we have to watch so many games concurrently that you really can't get yourself into the game and get yourself into the storylines. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, that's our opportunity to really lock in on a game and really appreciate the full storyline of the game and the stories that are inside the game of certain players and certain coaches and certain personnel. I think they got away with it last night. I'm not a fan of it, but just imagine, Michael, last night you're trying to watch the Cincinnati Bengals game and the Washington Commanders game because that's the more competitive one, and then you miss a moment like Damar Hamlin getting his first interception. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't think it's necessary, especially when they're only within an hour of kickoff of each other.
Yeah, well, I love it. I mean, there's no law against having two TVs in your living room. So you just set two TVs up.
But you can only have one audio source.
You don't need, back in the old days, you needed cable to watch two games. But now with all this streaming stuff, I can put one game on, I got two TVs working on Sunday anyway. So Monday night, I just leave the two TVs in the living room and here we go. I got both games and I can go back and forth. I got the early game and go back and later. And then I don't have to listen to the halftime show. God forbid if I had to do that. And the best part is I don't have to have volume on either game. So to me, it was really, I enjoy it. I like it. I think more of it. I wish they would take more of the 1 o'clock games and move them in the 4 o'clock window so we have more balance. I do agree with that. But to me, I love the idea. I don't think, in the world we live in today that everybody's on their phone during the game anyway. I mean, everybody says they're going to sit and watch the game. Half the time, people are looking at their Twitter, going on what's going on. But you can really watch two games at the same time because they're kind of not always in sync. So I kind of like it, Harrison.
But there's value. And I think maybe Grace could attest to this as like a former reporter. There's value in the storylines of the game. Like, imagine if you are trying to watch. Let's imagine last night that the Falcons and Chiefs game was happening. So now, because you're focusing on the Washington Commanders and Cincinnati Bengals, you don't hear that heartwarming story or that interesting story about Carson Steele missing his sister's
You can have that. I'm not making a Hallmark movie here. That's for you and Grace. I could care less about that. I want to watch the football game. Like, when they start going off track and going into storytelling, you lose me immediately. Like, I'm not interested in that.
But that's what makes it a...
No,
that's what makes it a good drama, though.
I'm interested in who's going to cover this line. Did I give out the right prediction? What coach is screwing something up? What coach is doing great? That's what I'm talking about. Those storylines are all fabricated based on some PR campaign that's going on that I have no interest in really seeing somebody get promoted. I mean, I got enough political ads on my television. I don't need any more during a football game. I could care less. You guys can enjoy it. Nothing wrong with it. Look, all good. But for me, no sound, 2 games. I don't need it. Look, I was very happy Damar Hamlin got an interception. That was awesome. I thought it was great. That to me, wonderful. But I don't need the story. The storytelling's in the game. Me, I don't know, Grace. What do you think?
I see it both ways. I really do, because Harrison, lately I've been feeling like, wow, I don't feel like a fan anymore. I feel like a business. Like, I'm plugging in my bets. I have the four box on, and I'm just like watching here and there. And then later on in the week, I'm rewatching all these games to like get the full grasp of what happened. So I see what you're saying, Harrison. And I'll say last night, I really appreciate that they were staggered kickoffs, because I had that Bills first quarter bet. And I mean, they were dominant from the first drive. So I was like, all right, this looks like it's going to cash. So let's just get the second touchdown. Now I can change the channel, because I was more interested in seeing how Jayden Daniels would perform. So the staggered kickoff worked for me. If it was the same time, I would not have liked that. But I get it both ways, guys. Let's take a
you two
look.
are from a generation that can multitask more. I'm the old guy in the room here. You two are from a generation that can handle things. You all have Twitter, Instagram, InstaFace, whatever Belichick calls. You can do two things at one time, and yet you two don't want to. Now you two want to go back all to the 70s and watch appointment TV. Like, I can't figure this out. Like, I can't get a read on this.
We're not the iPad generation yet. That's the one below us. We still have some brain cells left.
I got it.
I'm still like, I could watch a game and I could look at it from a betting standpoint. I could look at it from a game plan standpoint. But at the heart, Michael, I guess we're all still fans. And to be a fan of a player or of a team, like, you do like these humanized stories when these athletes become more than what's on their helmet. So I'm telling you, there's like an element that I think matters, even to me, who's more focused as a game plan person or as a bettor. It's all about the story. That's why the NFL is the most watched drama on a weekly basis in the NFL.
The game is the story. The game's the story.
For sure.
That's what makes it so compelling. That's why it has such great ratings. And the fact that you had the betting element into it, that's what has made this game so incredibly more productive. I mean, the top 20 television shows, or 19 of them are NFL games, because there's so much into it. And even when, like if you had a ticket for Jacksonville at 5.5 or 5, you're going to keep watching that game because you're thinking, well, maybe in the second half they can pull the Dallas Cowboys and come back and cover. Obviously they didn't. I mean, then you got fantasy football you push into this. I mean, so to me, there's so much that goes on into it that, I don't know. Sometimes I just don't feel the stories, maybe because I know too many people that are driving the stories, and maybe I've been poisoned by Al Davis to not believe anything that's been written, So
that's what's good. That's what's going on here.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, Al Davis taught me that, you better figure out what the story, who's behind the story to understand the story. I mean, it's a little bit of a part of it. You have to. I mean, there's always an agenda to everything. That's the thing. And look, I'm not against learning about players. It's my whole career was studying football players. But, when we go off and, and you get into that, this guy's the greatest coach since Newt Rockne. I mean, sometimes you just kind of like, okay, can we just get back to the game here?
All right, to each their own. That's how we will settle this one.
Yeah.
Let's get into some injury news.
That's why there's a mute button, Grace. That's why you can mute it.
By the way, I do say no phones during the game, because if you're watching together, it's kind of like family friend event. Well, you can be on your phone, but I just think it's rude. If you're scrolling on Twitter and not talking to the person next to you, like you're watching the game together. So that's the part I will put in.
Yeah.
Okay. We got to get to some injury news here. Chargers with just a laundry list of injury at this point. The quarterback, Justin Herbert, dealing with a high ankle sprain. The x-rays are negative, but they're going to monitor it during the week. Safety Derwin James is suspended, and then their star rookie tackle Joe Alt will miss some time with an MCL sprain. Tackle Rashawn Slater also with a strained pec. So, Michael, where do the Chargers go from here?
Well, I mean, look, this line moved from 7. It opened at 7, which told you immediately that Justin Herbert wasn't going to play. And then now it's up to 8 because of all these other injuries. And look, the Chargers will play. They'll, look, Patrick Mahomes hasn't played great either. I mean, but this is a tough task for Taylor Heineke and a lot of backup offensive linemen, assuming that, Alt's not going to play. Slater now is on the injury list. This will be a tough challenge. 8 might be a lot of points. I agree, but I think that's the reason why we're seeing that huge uptick. I mean, Joey Bosa is a very talented player, but there's always injuries with Joey Bosa. You never get a full year or a full game out of Joey Bosa. So to me, I can understand why this line's moving towards Kansas City away from the Chargers.
The 49ers also getting destroyed by injuries, and that Christian McCaffrey tendonitis looking a little bit more serious right now. He's in Germany getting looked at by a specialist, but it's not just him. It's defensive tackle Javon Hargrave suffers a torn tricep, and then Brock Purdy is now day-to-day with back soreness. Yeah. We're seeing a little bit of line movement on this one too. How do the Niners overcome these injuries?
Well, I this is not uncommon for a player to go to Germany. This has nothing to do with the Achilles tendonitis. This has everything to do with FDA regulations and what you can and the rehab that goes on in other countries that can help players. I mean, it's quite often. Peyton Manning, when he had his neck injury, would go over to Germany. There's a lot of different technologies outside our country that these NFL players are fully aware of, and they understand that how important their bodies are to their careers, that they seek out different medical. But McCaffrey aside, the Hargrave one's really tough because he was playing well. To me, this 49er team is devastated with injuries, and they have the look of a team that lost the Super Bowl. They just can't stay healthy right now, Grace.
And a couple more injuries we want to update you on. Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold has a bruise on his knee, but he did avoid serious injury. He's listed as questionable, but he's expected to play against the Texans. And then Browns edge Myles Garrett, day-to-day with a foot injury. Coming up next, time to lock in some early bets. Our guy Matt Youmans joins the show with his Week 4 plays.
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
Don't wait until fall to start betting the NFL. Get a jump start now with the VSiN NFL Betting Guide and get prepared for this NFL season like never before. The guide has in-depth breakdowns for all 32 teams, best bets from our VSiN experts, playoff predictions, award market previews, and more. The guide is out now, and the only way to get it is to be a VSiN Pro subscriber. Head to VSiN.com/pro to sign up and join the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Another week and another favorite goes down. Home favorites losing left and right in the NFL. We're going to break that down in just a moment. Welcome back to the VSiN Morning Line. Harrison Sanford, Michael Lombardi, and Grace Remington joining you on this Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining us. To break this all down, joining us right now on the Progressive Guest Line is Matt Youmans. And Matt, thank you for joining us first off. And then two, I'm sorry for your loss. You're one of many who got knocked out of their survivor pools last night. What was your vantage point on the Bengals' loss?
Well, vantage point is that the Cincinnati defense couldn't make a stop. And it was Jayden Daniels just dissecting that Cincinnati D last night. And you could kind of see it coming early in the game. And I was very concerned. It's disappointing to get knocked out of Survivor in week 3, but I'm not going to sit around and whine about it because it's only week 3. So it's not like made a deep run. We've had over 90% of the field knocked out. I almost used the Jets on Thursday night, almost used the Steelers on Sunday afternoon, and then went with the, like a buffoon, went with the Bengals last night. That's the way it is. That was the third week in a row the top pick in Survivor's been knocked out. This is unprecedented chaos in the first 3 weeks of the NFL season.
So Matt, why do you think that's the case? I mean, it's the normal is abnormal. I mean, I think that's the new normal. And so why do you attribute this? I mean, last year after week 3, the last 2 years, around 74% of the field was gone. Now it's just, to me, it's like, I don't know if anybody can make it to week 8.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some entrants hanging around, and they'll stretch this out a little bit longer past Thanksgiving. But I want to ask you, you've been around the NFL for a long time. I've been watching this league for a long time. I think this is the worst quarterback play we've witnessed in several years. And I heard Kurt Warner make a comment about that when he was breaking down tape yesterday, that the quarterback play he was seeing was making him physically uneasy. And you see the passing numbers, yards per game, touchdowns are down, dramatically declined from even 4 or 5 years ago. And I think when the quarterbacks are bad, the offenses are weak, the game results are going to be a little bit more unpredictable. Josh Allen has been the league's best, most consistent quarterback so far, and the Bills are 3-0. And I think that tells you something there, too. And also, Michael, this week, the 49ers are 10-point favorites against the Patriots. That's the first double-digit favorite of the season. I mean, what that indicates after so many games is we're looking at a league with a lot of parity. I guess you could say mediocrity. That's the old cliche. And that seems like what we're looking at in the NFL today. What do you think?
Well, I do think Kurt's right about the quarterbacking play. I think, to me, we've gotten so many, coaches without a lot of experience, without a lot of really understanding it. We can't wait to promote somebody from the McVay tree or from the Shanahan tree, yet they just really understand the plays. They don't understand the concepts. They don't understand the details and the fundamental that go into each play. That's what I call play stealers. You can steal the play, but if you don't understand the play or how it works, and then everything starts to break down, and then how do you fix the problem? I think there's that element that goes on to it. I think the lack of attention to fundamentals. I've never seen more bad tackling in all my life. I mean, Washington can't tackle, and Cincinnati couldn't tackle. I mean, they just can't tackle. Cincinnati's defense was so bad, but you could just see it because Zach Taylor's team doesn't play with any physicality. They're so worried about injuries, they've lost sight of the game, and they've shifted the focus away from let's just stay healthy as opposed to let's be physical and play better. I think, look, we're getting Justin Fields. He's not playing elite like a Pro Bowl level, but he's playing really good enough for them to win. And we saw last night Jayden Daniels as a rookie play good enough to win. I think it's really about identifying who you are, what your team's all about, and how to play complementary football. But, Matt, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's been going on throughout the league. I think what we have in the league is guys looking at their play sheets and not understanding the game.
Yeah, I'm not impressed by in general, the quality of the head coaches in the NFL. The quarterbacks and the head coaches, I feel like the quality of that's declined, and you're seeing that in the product on the field.
Well, Matt, speaking of mediocre quarterback play, I mean, Caleb Williams is running for his life out there, but the team that's built around him, that's not his fault. And then it feels like we're watching Trevor Lawrence regress in live time. So when it comes to Matt Eberflus or Doug Peterson, I mean, how much of that is on them, and which coach do you think is at risk of losing their job first?
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about this on the pregame show last night. The odds up there on which coach will be first fired, and I think it should be Matt Eberflus. I really didn't even think the Bears should have brought him back this year. He's 11-26 so far. He's got 2 last-place finishes in the NFC North. He doesn't know how to manage a game. He's a weak leader of that football team, and the Bears got so many issues when you watch them. Bears, again, that's another team that lacks toughness. And, you know, I'll just point to what the Colts defense has done so far. The Colts allowed 417 yards and 213 rushing to the Texans. They allowed 383 yards and 261 rushing to the Packers. The Bears show up in Indianapolis and they run the ball 28 times for 63 yards. You know, the Colts were allowing everyone to run all over them until the Bears show up, and then the Bears can't run the ball. It's a team that lacks toughness. Obviously, they're not bringing the rookie quarterback along the right way, and I haven't liked Eberflus for the last couple of years anyway. I know that Michael is not a big fan of, not a fan at all of Doug Peterson, and I'm not either. But I think Peterson, Eberflus, those guys got to be the first coaches you're looking at when you're talking about who's going to be fired. And what's Trevor Lawrence now? 0-8 in his last 8 starts? Maybe he's not the generational talent a lot of people thought.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, Matt. I think to me, when you look at it, Peterson was hired to make him. And look, this team has no toughness. They really don't. I mean, defensively, they couldn't make the adjustment last night. I mean, Josh Allen had whatever he wanted. This is a big game. And I think Peterson knows he's under the gun. They're going into a new stadium. They're, you know, it's good. They got to sell tickets. They got to get some hope. They just gave this guy $53 million. Now, somebody in that building thought he was worth $53 million. You got Trent Baalke, who's their general manager, who thinks the team's really talented. I mean, I know Trent thinks the team's really talented, and yet they can't stay within 30 points of Buffalo. I mean, that's so disappointing. On Eberflus, my sense of Eberflus is, I mean, these are the cards that he's been dealt. I don't know how Ryan Poles doesn't get caught up in this too. I thought Eberflus held the team together last year when Alan Williams got arrested and they had all these problems off the field. But to me, this Bear team, philosophically, by the way they're built, they're just not conducive to national football. They're a Madden team. You can't win the game, like you said. You're going to go play Indianapolis on the road there with crowd noise, and you're going to throw it 50 times in a close game. You deserve what you get. So I don't see that. How about this upcoming week? Is there any game that stands out to you when the lines came out?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When I was on your show last week, I said the Steelers are going to be my best bet against the Chargers. And I'm going to stick with the Steelers again this week, -1.5. Steelers short favorites at Indianapolis. I'll probably play this on the money line this morning too, -125. But again, right now, you mentioned the Steelers and how they play. You know, they try to run the ball. Justin Fields makes a few plays, but it's all based on that defense. Right now, Steelers are number 1 in defense in the NFL, allowing about 230 yards per game, 8.7 points per game, and the number 3 rushing defense. How are the Colts with Anthony Richardson going to be able to move the ball and get something done, much done offensively against the Steelers? If you watched a couple of those interceptions that Anthony Richardson threw against the Bears, he's taking a big step up this week in competition against the Steelers defense. I don't see the Colts getting a lot done here. And again, it comes down to me for toughness. The Steelers have a culture of toughness, and they know how to win these type of games. The Colts are not. The Colts are kind of a soft team. And, you know, I just mentioned some of those defensive numbers. The Colts have been destroyed on the ground, and their defense has been run over. The Bears ran 84 plays, and the Colts ran 54. Colts were lucky to win that game on Sunday. I think the Steelers keep it going. Why not? Keep riding the hot hand here with the best defense. I guess we can call it the best defense in the league right now, and a formula that's working. I'm going to bet the Steelers are going to Indianapolis and get that win.
Matt, we have just over a minute left here. Let's stay in that AFC North. You have the Cleveland Browns, and you mentioned some horrible offenses. Deshaun Watson is not playing at a high level, including that entirety of that offense. How do you like their matchup hosting the Raiders?
Pick your poison, Harrison, in this game. You want the Browns, you want the Raiders, you probably want neither. I think off that embarrassment at home on Sunday that the Raiders probably bounce back and play with a lot more pride, because that was a joke. The lack of effort the Raiders showed on defense. And then, Gardner Minshew didn't provide any sort of spark whatsoever in the first half. Antonio Pierce is another one of the, I'm talking about the lack of quality of head coaches in the NFL. Pierce is one of those guys who's under the gun too, and in over his head. So he's got to get this team to respond this week. I don't like anything I'm seeing from Deshaun Watson and the Browns right now. So I'm actually going to play the Raiders -1. It's not easy to make this play, but I'm going to make the Raiders a play.
As always, appreciate your time, Matt. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you bet. Thank you.
All right, guys, coming up, is it time to buy Malik Neighbors and time to sell on Travis Kelce? Michael Lombardi and I break down fantasy studs and duds. That's next on the VSiN Morning Line.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. The Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson gives you daily insights into finding value on each day's MLB card. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to the VSiN Morning Line. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. Harrison Sanford and Michael Lombardi here with you. And I sincerely hope that your Survivor League picks aren't as the same quality as your fantasy team, because if it is, your fantasy team probably isn't doing too well so far to begin the season. But we have hopefully some analysts, way to analyze your fantasy team for you that may help you maybe make it better for upcoming weeks. We're going to break down fantasy studs and duds in just a moment. But first, Michael and I, we're going to talk about some waiver wire ads that maybe you can help your fantasy football teams. And I'll start in Tampa Bay, Michael. Bucky Irving. If you look at the stats and if you just watch it with your eyes, it looks like he's a lot more productive or a lot more capable of being productive than Rachaad White at the running back position. In fact, Todd Bowles said recently that he expects Bucky Irving's production and his usage rate to increase maybe as soon as next week. Your thoughts on the overall running back position in Tampa Bay, particularly Bucky Irving being a more valuable asset in fantasy football?
Well, for 2 years in a row, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers haven't been able to run the ball, and Bucky Irving gives them the best view that I've seen in 2 years of being able to gain yards. Their offensive line always looks like they can't get any movement. It's hard for White to get back, and until they get a consistent run game, they're going to keep putting pressure on their big play explosive ability and ask Baker Mayfield to do too much. So I think if Bowles has come out and acknowledged that, what we're seeing, I think that's a good play, and I think you should jump on him because I think he's going to get the ball more, and I think he gives them a little bit more dynamic run skills.
Let's go to the wide receiver position and look at Jawan Jennings. Obviously, we know that there's injuries to Deebo Samuel. There's injuries to Christian McCaffrey. There's injuries all around in San Francisco, and Jawan Jennings definitely showed out this past weekend.
Yeah.
I would think, Michael, that this production from him is going to be sustainable until some of the more star players come back.
Well, I think even when they come back, it's going to be sustainable because, look, this guy makes plays. I mean, the jump ball that he took away from the Ram defender was outstanding. He's gone inside. He makes hard catches. He's been able to run really good routes for them. And Purdy and him have a connection. There's no denying that. And I think that connection is going to manifest itself moving forward, even when they get everybody back, because he's been reliable. Look, they signed him to a contract extension this offseason. They know what they have in the player. They like the player. I think the player is going to continue to grow and improve.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody who's going to be at the top of waiver claims this week. And one more waiver claim that I want to bring up, Braylon Allen. And, man, I feel sorry for Breece Hall owners out there, Michael, because when people drafted Breece Hall probably in their first round somewhere, they probably thought they were getting a bell cow running back. But Braylon Allen's getting a lot of opportunity in this Jets offense. Do you think that continues, or maybe they're just slow playing Breece Hall to begin the season?
No, I think this is, look, I think you need two backs in the NFL. I think it's hard for the bell cow. I think the bell cow was old school. I don't think the bell cow exists anymore. I think there's always going to be some form of rotation. You want to get the defense tired. You want to have a little bit of sweet and sour. You want to be able to bring power and then bring elusiveness. You need that, and you need the roles defined. I think, to me, this is going to continue down that road, and unfortunately, there'll be some games where it will benefit Bryce Hall, and it may not benefit the other kids. So I think, to me, two backs is essential in the NFL today.
If there's anything as a bell cow wide receiver, it would be Malik Neighbors. He's had over 50% target share so far for the New York Giants. This past week, 8 receptions, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns versus the Cleveland Browns. I know he's good. We all know he's good. The question is this actually sustainable? Because, Michael, I look at a player like, let's say, Jamar Chase, and without T. Higgins, he was able to be taken out of games. So far, with no other real legit threats on the outside, Malik Neighbors is still performing at a super high level. Will this continue, or is this potentially a sell-high opportunity?
Well, I think it has to. I mean, he is the Giants' offense. I mean, they got to get him the ball. They really don't have a bell cow runner. I know Singletary ran the ball better last week, but to me, I think there'll be games where, against certain matchups, and maybe it's not going to be this week this week against the Cowboys, you would think the Cowboys will double them and take him out of the game. Now, they're going to move him around and try to get him away from those doubles. They know that's coming. Brian Daboll's smart enough to know that his best player is going to start to get doubled, and they're going to start putting more pressure on Daniel Jones. But to me, I think you have to ride Neighbors, and every week it's going to be an up and down. They're going to wonder where it happened to him. I mean, look, when T. Higgins came back last night, all of a sudden Chase has 2 touchdown passes. You know why? Because it's hard to double Chase now because of Higgins is around, whereas you can double Neighbors. And I think once teams figure that out, obviously, the Browns thought they could win the one-on-one matchups with them. They couldn't.
All right, let's go to another wide receiver. And this, Michael, this has to be a sell-high opportunity, or maybe not. Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, free from the Bryce Young quarterbacked offense, now with Andy Dalton, had 8 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I would imagine we're not going to see too many replicas of that, or maybe, just maybe, he can actually be a productive wide receiver as long as Andy Dalton is under center.
Yeah, I think as long as Dalton's under there, they at least show they have a passing game. I mean, obviously, they're not as bad as they looked with Bryce Young playing quarterback. There's no question. And Andy Dalton gave him some life. But I think, to me, you have to be a little careful not to overreact. I think this Raider team thought this was going to be a walk in the park. I really do. The Raiders play with no intensity. I mean, they play with no real effort. I mean, how do you play against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City as well as they played and play as poorly as you played in this game? I mean, so to me, look, I think you got to be really careful. We'll see what they do this week. Now, they get a softie this week, too. I mean, Cincinnati's not very good defensively. We just watched them. They're horrible. And so they can't cover anybody, nor can they tackle. I mean, it may be a good play to keep them on your roster this week for fantasy.
Could you imagine Andy Dalton being the quarterback that helps the Cincinnati Bengals start out a season 0-4? That should be an interesting matchup.
Look, the way they play defense, I think we have to stop it. I know I made this mistake with Sean McVay in week 2. I said there's no way he's going to start the season 0-2, and he did. I think the way they're playing defense in Cincinnati, the way they lack offensive line talent, they put Mims in at right tackle last night. He got beat badly. I mean, Burrows sometimes struggles against a team that has no real pass rush. I mean, let's put things in perspective. I mean, Cincinnati averaged 7-2 a play in the game and couldn't win the game. That's how bad their defense was, right? They didn't punt either last night. They got bogged down in the red zone, but they had more than opportunity to move the ball like we thought they would do in that game because Washington's terrible on defense. However, that being said, Cincinnati's worse on defense. That's what I didn't calculate. I thought Cincy would improve defensively, and they by far haven't even come close to improve. Now, in fairness, all their defensive tackles have been hurt, so that's an issue, but their lack of team speed was fairly obvious in that game last night.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next hour. I want to break down the impact of losing players like Awuzie and Jesse Bates over the years. Is it really coming back to bite this Cincinnati Bengals team? But before we do that, let's go into some of the duds. And, Michael, the tight end position for fantasy football players is infuriating. Left and right. One of those chief people, Mark Andrews. Zero receptions versus the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. And he also had a dud to open the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. Is Mark Andrews just phased out of this offense all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, look, they want to run the ball. I mean, last week he got caught in the run game, right? I mean, they were running the ball against the Cowboys. Everything is so predicated on who you're playing. This week, Baltimore has Buffalo hosting Buffalo coming off that huge win. Now, you can attack Buffalo's safeties. Buffalo's a cover 7 team. They're going to play 4 across. There's going to be opportunity for Andrews, and I think they're going to have to take advantage of it. Look, here's what you know about Buffalo. If you're Baltimore, you don't want Josh Allen having the ball on many possessions. You give Josh Allen 12 to 14 possessions, you're probably going to lose. So you need to win the time of possession. You need to control the clock. And that starts with converting third downs, and usually that's Andrew's specialty.
All right, one more real quick before we head to break. Jameson Williams, standout start to the year throughout the first 2 weeks. Then he goes against the Arizona Cardinals secondary, which you think he could take advantage of, and he gets 1 reception for 4 yards. Anomaly or beginning of a trend?
Well, no, I think what's happened on tape is everybody knows they wants to throw the ball down the field to him. So that they see him when he's in the game, alert down the field. They try to run him on a reverse. That didn't work out so well. So for me, I think this is all game specific. You have to be very careful about how well you use them. I think Seattle's corners will be a problem. But look, they have so many weapons on offense in Detroit where they can get the ball. Laporta got hurt last week. He came back in the game. But look, I think it's going to be St. Brown, Laporta, and then Jamison Williams when they need him. So I think it's always going to be selective on him. It's not always going to be week after week after week.
Yeah, he definitely seems like a sit or at the very best a flex play for this upcoming week against that Seahawks secondary. All right, guys, coming up, can the Bengals be the 7th team to start a season 0-3 and make the playoffs? We'll debate that coming up next right here on the VSiN Morning Line.
A new football season means a new lineup on VSiN. Start your day with sharp betting analysis on the